Hi guys, Mario from thewoodfather.com here. Today's video I'm going to make another one of these octagonal trays. They're finger jointed trays on an angle, as you can see. I just think they look pretty cool. It was something that my wife wanted a tray, and then a reader sent an email asking if I'd ever made angled finger joints using my box joint jig. So I thought it would be a cool project to try that out on. It worked out really well, except because I don't have any sort of guide on my saw. I've got a rough guide that says 45 degrees, but in reality once I cut it, it turned out to be about 42 degrees or 43. So all of my corners are slightly off, there's little gaps in there. Santa Claus brought me a digital angle guide for Christmas, so I think I can try again and do a better job of it. So that's what I'm going to do today. Alright, so let's get started. So what I've got here is just my normal box joint jig, just with the normal sled on top. Because we're making angled joints, we don't want this 90 degree sled, so we'll get rid of that. And bring in the 45 degree one that I've made. The plans for this are on my website. It's very simple. It's basically this here, but on an angle. I've measured it and made sure that when I cut everything it's at 45 degrees. I'll show you how to do it on my website, but it's not really all that hard to do. And you could always make one at 33 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever you want it to be, and it should all work in theory. So these holes in the jig here, they're just for me so that I can insert a clamp and I can clamp the workpiece to it as well. You could just leave the wood without a hole and have one of those toggle clamps here, but I just don't have one of those clamps, so that's the way I worked it. It works as normal, just hold it on the back and you've still got the key that rides in between the slots. I made the fence a little bit higher on this one so that I can cut two pieces at once. And the only real difference, what is there? You don't ever need to flip the blocks on the back. All you need to do is make one cut, offset it, and then make the maiden cut. Let's do it.
So one really important point when using the jig in this manner is that your workpiece have to be an exact multiple of your desired joint thickness. So if you're cutting 10mm fingers, then the width of your workpiece needs to be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60mm, and so on. And this is because the pieces get flipped upside down to complete the joint. If they aren't the exact width, they will still fit together, but you're going to have to trim them down at the end to make the edges flush. It's much easier to cut all your pieces to the right dimensions before you begin.
So what I forgot to do was set the height of the blade properly. So these fingers need to be another centimetre longer so that I can finish them off. So because I haven't changed anything, I can just lift the blade up and recut. So now let's see. Beautiful. So that fits together nicely. However, because these are both have got the same pattern on them, they don't fit together properly, so let's cut the mating ones now. Okay, now to cut the mating pieces for these ones, I'm not changing anything except for a spacer. So this is the exact width of that finger joint there, and the same as the blocks on the back of my jig. So all I do is slot it in there, slide this one down. I may as well cut two of them at once again, and clamp it up. And now I cut this in the same way.
Cutting two pieces at once does work, but it is much easier if you just do one at a time. So you'll see here I do switch over just back to one at a time.
Okay, that's better. And that fits in very nicely now.
And straight off the jig I just tried out a test fit. It came out pretty good.
Now because of the way I cut it on the jig, we get all these lines where the saw blade goes through, and sometimes it's not always perfectly smooth down here. So all I'm doing is just running a chisel down and taking off the high spots. Alright,
Alright, so now all I've done is cleaned up all those edges just with the chisel and put it all back together. It's still not glued, it's just a dry fit, but everything's come out a lot nicer than the first one that I made. It's yeah, it's looking pretty good. So this is, nothing's glued yet, it's still just a dry fit. I was just testing out how I'm going to put the clamps on once I start gluing it up. It is a bit fiddly to do. A couple more clamps would be useful. Basically I've just got one this way, and then the two angles. So these are all the clamps I have that will fit it, so it's about as good as I can get. I think it'll work out fine. All the joints on the inside just look beautiful. They just join up so nice and tight. It looks a lot better than the first one I made. So I'm going to try gluing it up now. So after taking it out of the clamps and checking it out, it looked really cool. I think this would make a really nice picture frame. It would sort of be very different to have up on the wall. And you wouldn't have to cut the ends of the joints off either. You could just sort of shape them and make them look good. It's pretty cool. My joints were slightly off, so just to make sure everything was flush, I ran it through the belt sander. And then I extremely carefully cut the ends off on the table saw. So I've just got it on the miter gauge and I just went very slow and very carefully. A bandsaw would be much easier. I've really got to go and build one. I bought the plans from Wood Gears maybe a year and a half ago and I haven't touched them yet, but I'm going to have to do that very soon. And then I also wanted the joints to be slightly curved. I didn't want it just to be a full octagonal on the outside, if that sort of makes sense. So again, on the belt sander, I just went through and just slowly went and curved them over until I was happy with them. To cut the inlay for the tray, I used a rabbiting bit on the router. I found that cutting the full width in one shot was really causing a lot of tear out, and the wood was sort of breaking and chipping off. It's a real hard wood that I'm using here. So I went lightly over it all and just cut a little bit, and then I took it all the way up to the edge of the bearing. If I had a larger bearing to put on the bit, that would make things easier, but I've only got the one size. But it worked out in the end. And the plywood base is actually the one that I cut for the first tray, but I miscut it. I used a proper miter saw to cut it, a power one, and it just didn't come out right at all. So I thought this time I'll just go mark exactly where the edges are and cut it by hand. A little bit slower, but it worked a lot better. All I had to do was a little bit of sanding on the end until I got a perfect fit. Some of the joints had little gaps in them. I've got to improve the jig and make it better. I'm still using the original one that I made a year ago. So to fill it in, I just made a little paste mix out of sawdust and glue, filled in the gaps, and then I used just a blade just to scrape it off so that all I had was the glue inside the joint and not on the actual wood. And once that was dry, I just sanded and scraped a little bit more, and that was it. And after a few coats of spray lacquer, this is what I've ended up with. I am exceedingly happy with it. It's come out really, really nicely.
The joints, when you look at them from on top, they're just perfectly flush. On the first one that I made, there were gaps all over the place. On the inside, you can't see any of the fingers. Everything's just nice and smooth. And on the outside, the finger joints, there were a few little bits of tear out and a couple of gaps here and there, but I'm still quite happy with the whole project. I might go through and on the router table put a very, very slight chamfer across the bottom of the tray. Just, I don't know, like a shadow line or something like that it's called. I haven't decided if I want that or not though. But on the whole, I'm extremely happy with it. Much better than the first version and shows that the jig is very useful. So if you want plans for the box joint jig, they're on my website. I've got a video for them as well. Very easy to make and you get to make some cool stuff with it. Hope you enjoy, guys. I'll see you next time.